The bright lights of New Geneva Station made everything look like a dream. Little Jiho walked slowly next to his mother, looking up at all the strange beings around him. His small hand held tight to his mom's fingers as they moved through the busy halls. "Stay close to me, Jiho," his mother Nari said softly. She was wearing her best clothes because she had important work to do here. She was a diplomat from Earth, which meant she talked to aliens to make peace between different worlds. Jiho had never seen so many different types of beings in one place. There were tall blue creatures with long necks that bent like snakes. There were small furry things that walked on four legs and talked in high voices. Some aliens looked like giant insects with shiny shells on their backs. "Mama, look at that one," Jiho whispered, pointing at a creature that had 6 arms and was juggling glowing balls of light. "Remember what I told you about pointing?" Nari said gently. "It's not polite to some of our alien friends." Jiho nodded and put his hand down. He was trying very hard to be good. This was his first time on a space station and everything was so exciting. The walls were made of something that looked like glass but was stronger than metal. Through the clear walls, he could see stars and other ships floating in the dark space outside. They walked past shops that sold things Jiho had never seen before. One store had crystals that sang when you touched them. Another had clothes that changed colors by themselves. There was even a place that sold food that floated in the air instead of sitting on plates. "Can we get some floating food, Mama?" Jiho asked. "Maybe later after my meeting," Nari replied. "First, I need to talk to some very important people about keeping peace between Earth and other worlds." As they walked, Jiho noticed that many aliens stared at them. Some looked curious like they had never seen humans before. Others looked at them the way people look at bugs they want to step on. It made Jiho feel a little scared, but his mother's warm hand made him feel safe. They stopped near a big store that sold shiny rocks and gems from different planets. Nari needed to wait here for someone she was supposed to meet. While they waited, Jiho looked around at all the pretty stones that sparkled like tiny stars. A huge alien was looking at the same stones. This creature was bigger than any person Jiho had ever seen. It stood on 2 legs like a human, but it looked more like a giant bug. Its skin was hard and dark like armor. It had big eyes that stuck out from its head, and when it breathed, it made a sound like steam coming from a kettle. Jiho was so amazed by all the sparkling gems that he didn't watch where he was walking. He took a few steps to get a better look at a red crystal that glowed like fire. But he walked right into the big alien's leg. The alien looked down at Jiho with its huge eyes. Those eyes were not kind. They were cold and angry like winter ice. "Watch where you walk, little mammal," the alien said in a voice that sounded like rocks grinding together. "I'm sorry," Jiho said quickly. He had learned that word in the alien language just for this trip. "I didn't mean to bump you." But the alien did not seem to care about Jiho's apology. Instead, it made a noise that sounded like laughing, but not the nice kind of laughing. This was mean laughing. "Stupid human child," the alien said loud enough for everyone nearby to hear. "Your kind needs to learn respect for your superiors." Nari heard the alien's voice and quickly came over. "I apologize for my son," she said politely. "He's young and excited to see your beautiful station." The alien looked at Nari with the same cold eyes. "Humans think they can walk anywhere they want. You think you belong here with real civilized beings." "We meant no disrespect," Nari said, pulling Jiho closer to her. But the alien was not finished. It made that grinding laugh sound again. Then it did something that changed everything. The alien opened its mouth wide, showing rows of sharp teeth. From somewhere deep in its throat came a green liquid. The alien spit this liquid right at Jiho's face. The green stuff hit Jiho's cheek and started burning immediately. It felt like fire and ice at the same time. Jiho screamed as loud as he could. The pain was worse than anything he had ever felt in his whole life. "Jiho!" Nari cried out and grabbed her son. The green liquid was eating through his skin like acid. She tried to wipe it off, but it was too late. The damage was already done. People around them started to notice. Some humans who worked on the station came running. Other aliens just watched like they were seeing a show. "Someone get help!" Nari shouted. "My son needs a doctor right now." The big alien just stood there watching Jiho cry and scream. It did not look sorry. It looked proud of what it had done. "Now the little mammal knows his place," the alien said calmly. "Next time, human children will watch where they walk around their superiors." Security guards finally arrived, but they were not human guards. They were aliens too. When Nari tried to explain what happened, the guards just looked bored. "Cultural misunderstanding," one guard said. "Humans must learn galactic customs." They took the big alien away, but only to write down what happened. They did not arrest it. They did not punish it. They treated it like someone who had just forgotten to pay for parking. Jiho's cheek would heal, but it would never look the same again. The scar would remind him forever of this day. But more importantly, it would remind all of humanity of what happened when someone hurt their children. Nobody knew it yet, but this moment would change everything between humans and the rest of the galaxy. The video of little Jiho crying with his burned face spread faster than anyone expected. Within hours, every human in the galaxy had seen it. The image of the 6-year-old boy holding his scarred cheek while his mother tried to comfort him appeared on every screen, every news feed, every communication device that humans used. On Earth, people stopped what they were doing to watch the footage. In offices, workers gathered around computers with angry faces. In schools, teachers showed older students what had happened to one of their own. In homes, parents held their children closer and felt something hot and dangerous growing in their hearts. The response was immediate and fierce. In Seoul, crowds filled the streets carrying pictures of Jiho. They chanted words that demanded justice. Similar crowds appeared in every major human city across Earth. New York, London, Tokyo, Mumbai, millions of people came out to show their anger. But Earth was not the only place where humans lived. On Mars, the big mining colony stopped all work. Every miner, engineer, and scientist joined together in the Red Planet's domed cities. They held up signs that said "Justice for Jiho" and "Protect our children." The space stations where humans worked also erupted in protest. People who normally spent their days fixing ships or loading cargo now spent their time planning what to do about the attack on their child. Because that's how they saw it, not as an attack on one family but on all of humanity. Admiral Do Hyun sat in his office deep underground in Seoul, reading reports that came in from every corner of human space. Each report said the same thing: humans everywhere wanted action. They wanted revenge. They wanted the galaxy to know that hurting a human child was not acceptable. "Sir," said Commander Minsik as he entered the room with more papers. "We're getting messages from every human colony, every corporate fleet, every research ship. They're all asking the same question." "What question?" Admiral Do Hyun asked, though he already knew the answer. "When do we fight back?" The Admiral looked at the picture on his desk. It showed his own daughter about the same age as Jiho. He imagined some alien spitting acid on her face, and his hands formed fists without him thinking about it. Meanwhile, on New Geneva Station, Ambassador Yuna tried to get the alien authorities to take the attack seriously. She sat across from a tall, thin alien called a council representative. This alien had 4 arms and skin that looked like blue metal. "You must understand," Yuna said carefully, "this was not just a small accident. That creature deliberately hurt a child. Our child." The alien made a sound like sighing, but it was more annoyed than sad. "Ambassador Yuna, you humans are very emotional creatures. This is a simple matter of cultural education. The Vectar was teaching proper behavior." "Teaching proper behavior?" Yuna's voice got louder despite her training to stay calm. "By burning a child's face with acid?" The young human was not following correct social protocol. The alien explained like he was talking to someone very stupid. "In galactic society, lower species must show respect to higher species." The Vectar was correcting bad behavior. Yuna felt her heart beating fast. "Lower species? Higher species? Are you saying humans are lower than Vectar?" The alien's 4 arms moved in what might have been a shrug. "This is simply biological and social fact. Humans are new to galactic civilization. You have much to learn about your proper place." Back on Earth, the news networks could not stop talking about what happened. Every channel showed the same footage over and over. Every talk show discussed what it meant. Every expert tried to explain why the aliens thought this was acceptable. But humans didn't want explanations. They wanted justice. President Jaiwan called an emergency meeting with all the leaders of human colonies and corporations. The meeting happened over video screens that connected Earth to every place where humans lived in space. "We have a choice to make," President Jaiwan said to the faces looking back at her from dozens of worlds. "We can accept what the aliens call cultural education, or we can respond as one people." The response was immediate and unanimous. Every single leader said the same thing: "We respond." What the aliens didn't know was that this attack had done something they never expected. For the first time since humans had spread across the stars, every human group agreed on something completely. It didn't matter if they were from Earth or Mars or the outer colonies. It didn't matter if they were rich or poor, young or old, from different countries or different companies. Someone had hurt a human child, and that made them all family. The corporate heads who normally competed with each other called to offer their ships. The military commanders who served different governments started planning together. The colonists who had been arguing about independence from Earth suddenly remembered they were all human. On the alien news networks, reporters made jokes about the human tantrum. They laughed about emotional mammals who got upset over normal social correction. One popular alien comedy show made fun of humans crying over a little acid spit. But some aliens were not laughing. The smarter ones looked at the reports coming from human space and felt worried. They saw every human ship returning to human worlds. They noticed human workers leaving their jobs on alien stations. They watched human trade agreements being quietly cancelled. These aliens remembered old stories about species that seemed peaceful until someone threatened their young. They had heard rumors about what humans had done in their own history when their children were in danger. But most aliens just kept laughing, kept making jokes, kept treating it like entertainment. They would learn very soon that hurting a human child was no laughing matter. In military bases across human space, Admiral Dohian's question was being answered. Ships that had been hidden for decades started powering up. Weapons that aliens had never seen before were loaded and prepared. Soldiers who had been pretending to be farmers and merchants began putting on their real uniforms. The ripple effect had begun, and it would not stop until the galaxy learned a very important lesson about humanity. The Galactic Council Hall was enormous. It could hold representatives from almost 1,000 different worlds and species. The ceiling was so high you could barely see it, and the walls were made of crystal that showed pictures of all the different planets in the galaxy. Ambassador Yuna walked slowly down the long pathway to the center of the hall. Her footsteps echoed in the huge space. Around her, hundreds of alien representatives sat in their special seats, watching her with curious eyes. Some aliens were tall as trees, others were small as cats. Some had fur, some had scales, some looked like walking rocks. But they all had one thing in common. They thought humans were not very important. Yuna reached the speaking platform in the middle of the hall. She looked up at all the alien faces staring down at her. For a moment she thought about little Jiho and his scarred face. She thought about all the humans across the galaxy who were waiting to hear what happened in this room. Honorable members of the Galactic Council, Yuna began, her voice clear and strong. I come before you today representing all of humanity with a formal demand for justice. Some aliens made sounds that might have been laughing. Others just looked bored. A few were playing with small devices and not even paying attention. 3 days ago, Yuna continued, a Vectar merchant deliberately attacked a 6-year-old human child with acid spit. The child was permanently scarred. This was not an accident. It was not self-defense. It was a deliberate act of violence against an innocent child. The Vectar ambassador stood up from his seat. He was massive, even bigger than the alien who had hurt Jiho. His hard shell-like skin gleamed under the hall's lights, and his big compound eyes focused on Yuna like a predator looking at prey. The human speaks of violence, the Vectar ambassador said in his grinding voice. But where is the violence? A young mammal received education in proper behavior. This is how civilized species teach respect to lower forms of life. More aliens made agreeing sounds. Some nodded their heads or moved their tentacles in ways that showed they supported the Vectar. Yuna felt anger burning in her chest, but she kept her voice calm. Humanity makes the following demands. First, the Vectar merchant who attacked our child must be sent to Earth to face justice in our courts. Second, the Vectar government must make a public apology to the victim and to all humanity. Third, they must pay money to cover the child's medical costs and compensation for his suffering. The hall erupted in noise. Aliens chattered, buzzed, roared, and made all kinds of sounds that meant they thought Yuna's demands were ridiculous. The sound was so loud it hurt her ears. When the noise died down, the Vectar ambassador spoke again. The hairless apes from their tiny world dare to make demands of superior civilizations? His voice dripped with contempt. Humans control what, 12 star systems? The Vectar Empire spans 47 worlds. We are an ancient and powerful people. You are newcomers who barely understand the basics of galactic civilization. Other alien representatives began to speak, each one more dismissive than the last. Humans are too emotional, said a blue alien with tentacles for arms. They cannot think logically about simple social situations. Perhaps they need the same education the child received, suggested a rock-like being whose voice sounded like grinding stone. This is what happens when primitive species are allowed into galactic society too quickly, added a tall, thin alien with 4 eyes. They do not understand the natural order. The Supreme Council chairman, an ancient alien that looked like a giant floating brain with eyes, finally called for order. The Galactic Council will vote on the human demands, he announced. Yuna waited as the voting began. She watched the displays around the hall light up with the results. One by one, alien species voted against humanity's demands. The numbers climbed higher and higher. Final vote: 847 species against 1 species for. Only humanity had voted for their own demands. The hall filled with alien laughter and chittering sounds of amusement. To them this was entertaining. The primitive humans had made silly demands and been put in their place. But Yuna did not look defeated. Instead, she began packing up her papers with slow, careful movements. Every action was deliberate and calm. "Ambassador Yuna," the Supreme Chairman said, "surely you understand now that your species must learn to accept galactic social norms. The matter is closed." Yuna finished putting her papers in her bag. She looked up at the hundreds of alien faces, memorizing this moment. When she spoke again, her voice was quieter than before, but somehow it carried to every corner of the enormous hall. "You have made your choice," she said simply. "Now humanity will make ours." She started walking toward the exit, but then stopped and turned back to face the council one last time. "Let me be very clear about something," Yuna said, and now her voice was cold as space itself. "You had the chance to do the right thing. You could have shown that justice matters in this galaxy. You could have proven that even the smallest member of galactic society deserves protection." The hall was completely quiet now. Something in Yuna's tone made even the most arrogant aliens pay attention. "Instead, you chose to protect the one who hurt our child. You chose to mock our pain. You chose to tell us that our children don't matter because we're not as powerful as you." Yuna took a deep breath and delivered the words that would echo through galactic history. "Effective immediately, humanity withdraws from all galactic treaties, trade agreements, and diplomatic relations. We will no longer participate in your council, follow your laws, or recognize your authority over human space." The aliens began making sounds of surprise and concern, but Yuna wasn't finished. "You should have protected our children," she said quietly. "Now you'll learn what happens when you don't." Yuna walked out of the hall, leaving behind hundreds of confused and increasingly worried aliens. They had no idea that they had just declared war on humanity. At first, the aliens thought humanity's withdrawal from the Galactic Council was just a childish tantrum. On the popular alien news shows, comedians made jokes about crying humans who were taking their toys and going home. The hosts laughed and said humans would come crawling back in a few weeks when they realized how much they needed galactic trade and protection. "Look at their tiny military," one blue-skinned news anchor said while showing pictures of human ships. 12 star systems with maybe 100 combat vessels. They think they can survive alone in the dangerous galaxy? But some things were happening that the aliens didn't notice at first. Human cargo ships that had been traveling between alien worlds for decades suddenly disappeared from space lanes. One day they were delivering goods and materials as usual, the next day they were gone. Alien port authorities assumed the ships had just gone to different routes. Human workers on alien space stations quietly resigned from their jobs. Engineers, doctors, teachers, and technicians who had been working alongside aliens for years simply packed their belongings and left. They said they were homesick and wanted to return to human space. Human research teams that had been studying on alien worlds packed up their equipment and departed. When asked why, they gave polite excuses about needing to return home for family reasons or new job opportunities. Within 2 weeks, almost every human in alien space had vanished. Deep in the asteroid belt around Earth's sun, something extraordinary was happening. Admiral Kyung-soo stood on the bridge of a massive ship that most of the galaxy had never seen. Around him, dozens of similar vessels hung in space like sleeping giants. "Status report, Commander Yunji," the Admiral said. Commander Yunji looked at her screens, which showed information from across human space. "All hidden fleets are responding, sir. The Mars Defense Group reports 37 heavy cruisers ready for deployment. The Outer Colony Strike Force has 42 destroyers fully armed. The Jupiter Research Division has completed their special projects." Admiral Kyung-soo nodded. For 50 years, humanity had been playing a very careful game. While aliens saw humans as weak newcomers with basic technology, the truth was very different. When humans first met alien civilizations, they immediately realized they were outnumbered by thousands to one. So they made a plan. They would act weak and peaceful while secretly building the most advanced military force the galaxy had ever seen. Every human research station had really been a weapons development facility. Every mining colony had been producing warship hulls. Every trading vessel had been designed to convert into a combat ship within hours. "Sir," Commander Jae-hwan reported from another station, "we're receiving confirmation from all human worlds. The civilian population is fully behind military action. Recruitment centers are reporting more volunteers than they can process. This was perhaps humanity's greatest strength that aliens had never understood. When one human child was hurt, every human felt that pain. It didn't matter if they lived on Earth or a distant colony, if they were rich or poor, if they came from different countries or cultures. An attack on one human child was an attack on all humanity. On Mars, factory workers who had been secretly building warships for decades finally revealed what they had been making. Enormous vessels emerged from underground construction bays, their hulls gleaming with armor plating that no alien had ever seen before. The human colonies that aliens thought were small farming worlds suddenly revealed massive orbital defense platforms. Weapons systems that had been hidden inside fake agricultural equipment came online for the first time. "Admiral," Commander Soyan announced, "the Jupiter Division wants to report on Project Deep Strike." "Go ahead." "They've completed development of quantum disruption weapons. Initial tests show they can disable entire fleet formations without destroying them. The aliens will be completely helpless but alive." Admiral Kyung-soo smiled grimly. Humanity had spent decades studying every alien military system, every defense network, every weapon technology. They had prepared for this day since the moment they realized the galaxy operated on the principle that might makes right. Meanwhile, in the Galactic Council chambers, some of the smarter alien representatives were beginning to worry. "Something is wrong," said Counselor Zephyx, a wise old alien who had been observing galactic politics for 3 centuries. "Humans don't just disappear like this. They're planning something." "Planning what?" scoffed the Vectar ambassador. "They have no military power. Their entire fleet couldn't challenge one of our patrol groups." But Counselor Zephyx had been watching the reports more carefully. "All human trade has stopped. All human workers have returned home. All human research teams have departed. This isn't random. This is coordinated preparation." Other council members began pulling up data about human activities. What they saw was disturbing. For the first time in decades, they couldn't find any humans outside human space. Every single human had returned to their home systems. "It's like they're preparing for war," whispered a tentacled alien representative. "War against whom?" asked another. "Against all of us?" Back in human space, the final preparations were complete. Admiral Kyung-soo received the last report he was waiting for. "Sir, all human civilian populations have been evacuated to protected worlds. All defensive systems are online. All strike fleets report ready for immediate deployment." The Admiral thought about little Jiho, still recovering from his injuries on Earth. The boy would grow up in a very different galaxy than the one that had hurt him. "Commander Yunji, open a channel to all human fleets." "Channel open, sir." Admiral Kyung-soo's voice reached every human ship, every human station, every human world across their space. "Today the galaxy learns what happens when someone hurts our children. All units, begin Operation Total Eclipse." Across human space, thousands of warships that the galaxy had never seen before began moving toward alien worlds. The revelation was complete. Humanity was not weak. They had been preparing for this moment for 50 years. Now the galaxy would pay for underestimating them. The war began at exactly midnight, Galactic Standard Time. Across 47 star systems, Vectar military commanders went to sleep thinking they were the masters of their corner of the galaxy. They woke up to find human warships surrounding every one of their worlds. Admiral Kyung-soo watched the tactical displays from the bridge of his flagship. Green dots representing human fleets appeared around every major Vectar stronghold simultaneously. The aliens had no time to prepare, no time to call for help, no time to even understand what was happening. "Status report," he ordered. "All target systems secured, sir," Commander Yunji replied. "The Vectar fleets are requesting permission to surrender." "Already?" Admiral Kyung-soo raised an eyebrow. "It's only been 6 hours." The truth was shocking even to the humans. The Vectar military, which had seemed so powerful and threatening, collapsed almost immediately when faced with real opposition. Their ships were old, their tactics were outdated, and their commanders had never fought anyone who could fight back effectively. Human quantum weapons disabled entire Vectar fleets without firing a single destructive shot. The alien ships simply stopped working. Their engines went quiet, their weapons powered down, their communication systems failed. They floated helplessly in space while human vessels surrounded them. "Sir, we're receiving a communication from Vectar Prime," reported Commander Jae-hwan. "It's their emperor. He wants to negotiate." "Tell him we don't negotiate with people who hurt children," Admiral Kyung-soo replied coldly. "He can surrender unconditionally or watch his empire burn." But the human assault didn't stop with the Vectar. Every alien species that had voted against humanity in the Council found human fleets appearing in their space. The message was simple and clear. You supported the attack on our child, now you face the consequences. The speed of human victory shocked the entire galaxy. Species that had ruled vast territories for thousands of years found themselves completely helpless within days. Human technology was so far advanced that alien weapons couldn't even damage human ships. On New Geneva Station, the same place where Jiho had been attacked, panic spread through the alien population. Human ships surrounded the station, and everyone knew that humanity was in control now. The Vectar merchant who had spit acid on Jiho was dragged from his hiding place by human soldiers. His arrogant confidence was completely gone. Now he begged and pleaded, saying he was sorry, saying he didn't mean to cause trouble. You should have thought about that before you hurt our child, said Captain Minju as she personally placed restraints on the alien's arms. Across the galaxy, the same scene played out over and over. Alien leaders who had laughed at human demands were now desperate to make peace. They offered money, territory, resources, anything humans wanted. But humanity's response was always the same: unconditional surrender. The Galactic Council called an emergency session, but this time it was very different. Instead of hundreds of confident alien representatives, there were only a few dozen scared survivors. Most of the major military powers had already surrendered to humanity. Supreme Council Chairman floated in his usual place, but his ancient brain body trembled with fear. We must contact the humans immediately, he said. We must make peace before they destroy us all. What can we offer them? Asked one of the few remaining representatives. They have already taken everything they want. We offer them what we should have given them from the beginning, replied Councillor Zephyx sadly. Justice, respect, and an apology for hurting their child. Back on Earth, little Jiho sat in his hospital room watching the news reports on his tablet. The scar on his face was healing well, but it would always be there to remind everyone of what had started this war. His mother Nari sat beside him, reading messages from humans all across the galaxy. Every message said the same thing: this was for Jiho. This was for our children. This was to make sure it never happens again. Mama, Jiho said quietly, did all this really happen because of me? Nari smiled and hugged her son gently. No, sweetheart. This happened because people who should have protected you decided that hurting children was acceptable. The galaxy needed to learn that it's not. 3 weeks after the war began, it was over. Every alien species that had supported the Council's dismissal of human demands had either surrendered or been completely defeated. The mighty Vectar Empire was gone. The Galactic Council was dissolved. Alien military forces were either destroyed or under human control. Admiral Kyung-soo stood on the observation deck of Luna Station, looking down at Earth. Below him, thousands of alien ambassadors waited in long lines to sign individual peace treaties with humanity. Each one had to formally apologize for the attack on Jiho and promise that such a thing would never happen again. Sir, Commander Soyan approached with the final reports. The last holdout systems have surrendered. Total human victory across all theaters of operation. Our casualties: 0 deaths, 17 minor injuries. Admiral Kyung-soo nodded. And alien casualties? Minimal, sir. As ordered, we disabled rather than destroyed. Most alien fleets are intact but completely helpless. It had been a perfect military operation. Humanity had proven their point without becoming the monsters they fought against. They had shown mercy to those who had shown none to a child. Young Jiho would grow up in a galaxy where humans were respected and feared. Where no alien would ever dare hurt a human child again. Where humanity's greatest lesson had been learned by everyone: never underestimate what parents will do to protect their young. The age of human dominance had begun, built on the simple principle that hurting children was unforgivable.